Okay, so if we focus on question 2b, question 2b is telling you, what if you were a shareholder, if you own 10% of the share capital of Hereford, what action might you take? So basically, this is the same as what we did before. So if you own 10% of the share capital, you sell the share capital you own in Hereford, you borrow some money, right? You do some borrowing, you add a total amount, and then you buy in the next company. Will you make a profit, and is it worthwhile? So that's basically the same thing for this question B. So that's the same idea. So they tell you you own 10% of the share capital of Hereford, okay? So you own 10% of the capital of Hereford. You own 10% of the share capital of Hereford, and Hereford has 3 million shares. So they have 3 million ordinary shares. Okay, so Hereford, okay. So Hereford has 3 million shares. 3 million shares, and you own 10%. You own 10%, so that means you own 300,000. So that means you own 300,000 shares, okay? And you're going to sell them because they're telling you, okay, so you own them in Hereford, but you want to sell them and you want to buy them in Hampshire. So 300,000 at, what's the market? What can you sell them at? What's the market price? So Hereford, market price at Hereford is £1.80. So 300,000 at £1.80. So 300,000 times by £1.80. If you sell them, you're going to make 540k. 540,000. But you've also got to borrow some. You've got to do some borrowing as well. And they don't tell you that you do. They don't tell you in the question that you have to do. Do you do borrow? So you sort of have to work it out. So you use this formula: debt divided by equity equals borrowed divided by non-borrowed. Borrowed divided by non-borrowed. And we know, so if we're looking at Hereford, we know that the company Hereford, right, they have debt. So the company of Hereford, they have 10%, they have 10 million undated bonds, right? So if you want to work out the debt, you're doing 10 million divided by nominal value 100 times by the market price 75 pence. So their debt is, so they have debt 10 million divided by nominal value of 100 times it by the market price 75. So their debt is 7,500,000. 7,500,000 is their debt, and their equity that Hereford has is 3 million shares at £1.80. So 3 million shares at £1.80. 3 million shares at £1.80 equals 5,400,000. 5,400,000 equals borrowed divided by non-borrowed. So we're looking for borrowed. So we're looking at how much he's borrowed. So that's unknown. Call it P. Non-borrowed, we know. We already know how much we made as non-borrowed. It's going to be 540,000. 540,000. And just by looking at the formula, you can tell, because there's 10% change, you can tell that because this is 5,400,000, it's 540k. You can tell that this is going to be 750k. So if you do it in the calculator, it's going to work. So we have our debt, we have our equity. This is all for Hereford. Our non-borrowed is 540k from our share capital, and P is the unknown. And we have to work out how much he's borrowed, because for the questions where they don't tell you he's borrowed, you have to work it out like this. Sometimes they'll be nice and give it to you. For question 1, they told us he's borrowing 6,000 at a rate of 8%, but sometimes they won't tell you, so that's what makes it difficult. So you have to work it out like this: debt over equity equals borrowed divided by non-borrowed. And we already know he had 10% share capital and he sold that. So he's got 540,000 cash. He's got that available, but he's also borrowing something from the bank. We need to work out what he's borrowing. So just by looking at this, you can tell P is 750k because there's just a 10% difference. And we worked out the debt, we worked out the equity, and we know what the non-borrowed is. But if you do it in the calculator, just to be 100% sure, so 7,500,000 divided by 5,400,000 equals, and then we times it out by 540k to get P. So times it out by 540,000 equals 750,000. So he's borrowing 750,000 on top of the money he has. He's borrowing 750,000 at. And Sir actually said there was a mistake in the question because they didn't say how much he borrowed. At the end of the question, they were supposed to say like he's borrowing at 8% apparently. But he said in the test, they will definitely tell you how much. But he said just for now, you just have to take it as 8%. Like in question 1 where he was borrowing at 8%. But in question 2, I think they missed it out. It was supposed to be the last line of the question. But anyway, he's borrowing at 8%. In the exam, they'll definitely give it to you anyway. So let's say, so he's borrowing 750,000 at 8%. Okay, so he's got 5,400,000. He's got 540k. He's got 540k because he sold his shares. So he's got 540,000, and he's also got 750,000 that he's borrowed. So his total amount of money that he's got available is 540,000 plus 750k equals 1,290,000. 1,290,000. So he owns shares in Hereford. He owns shares in Hereford, and now the idea is to get as much equity as he can and buy shares in Hampshire and see if the dividends from Hampshire will make more money than the two costs, the costs of borrowing and the costs of the money that he had in Hereford. So now he has 1,290,000 available equity. Okay, so he has 1,290,000 available in equity, and the idea is now invest everything in Hampshire and look at the dividends, and the dividends should make you a profit. If it's worthwhile, it'll make you a profit. If it's not worthwhile, you make a loss. So invest all in Hampshire. So Hampshire's share price, question 2, Hampshire's share price is 32p. So each share is 32p. So he's got 1,290,000, 1,290,000, and the share price is 0.32. We want to know how many shares he can buy. So each share is 32p. So 1,290,000 divided by 0.32 equals 4,031,250. So that's how many shares he can buy. So he can buy 4,031,250 shares. So this is the number of shares he can buy, and we want to know what the dividends per share. So we can buy 4,031,250 shares from Hampshire, but we want to know what the dividends per share is of Hampshire and how much money we can make from dividends from Hampshire. So dividends per share for Hampshire is basically the earnings. So the earnings divided by the number of shares. So the earnings for Hampshire. So we know that the earnings for Hampshire's annual earnings is 1 million. So dividends per share is 1 million divided by the number of shares. So Hampshire has 25 million ordinary shares, no debts, so you don't have to worry about that. So 1 million divided by 25 million equals 0.04. So that means that because you have 4 million shares at 4 pence per share, the total dividends that you'll get is basically 4,031,250 times by 0.04 equals 161,250. So you've got 161,250. This is the amount of dividends that you're going to make from Hampshire. But to know if it's a worthwhile transaction, you've got to take away the costs foregone from Hereford, and you've got to take away the cost of borrowing. So the cost foregone in Hereford. So in Hereford we had 300,000 shares. We own 10% capital, so we have 300,000 shares, and dividends per share for Hereford had debt, so dividends per share was 1,400,000. That was their earnings minus their debt, which was 10 million, times by 6%, all divided by the number of shares for Hereford. Hereford had 3 million shares. So 3 million shares. So 1,400,000, do it like this. 1,400,000 minus 10 million. 10 million times by 6%. All divided by 3 million. That's the number of shares. All divided by 3 million equals 0.2667. So 0.2667 pence per share. That's your dividends per share for Hereford. So he had 300,000 shares times by 0.2667 per share means that the dividends he foregone, 300,000 times by 0.2667 equals 80,010, and the cost of borrowing. So we borrowed 750,000 at 8%, which was 750,000 times by 0.08. Although they didn't tell us 8%, like I said, it's just a mistake in the question, but normally in the exam they'll definitely tell you the percentage. So 750,000 we borrowed at 8% from the bank equals 60,000. So these are his two costs. That's his first cost. That's the second cost. This is the first cost from the dividends foregone. and that he made 161,250 dividends when he invested everything in Hampshire. He made 161,250 in dividends. Take away the 80,010, take away the 60,000. So for it to be worthwhile, he needs to make a profit. So 161,250 minus 80,010 minus 60,000 equals 21,240. And so that means he's made a profit of 21,240. So because he's made a profit of 21,240, the question asks you, question B, it says, explain what action you might take. So explain what action you might take. So the action you would take is essentially borrow. So the argument would be that what you would do is you own 10%. You own 10% capital. You'd sell your 10% capital at £1.80. You borrow 750,000 at 8% from the bank, and then you would use that. And by doing that, you would invest everything into Hampshire. You would make this from your dividends in Hampshire, and then you would make a profit. Overall, you would make a profit of 21,240 altogether, and then it is a worthwhile transaction.